I got to start with this. So he's working for free with Doge. He's kind of put a lot of his life on hold. And you sued Twitter a number of years ago. You just made him pay you $10 million?
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
Well, I sued from long before he had it.
Yeah.
And I mean, they really did a number on me, you know. And I sued, and they had to pay. They paid $10 million settlement.
You're okay with that?
I mean, I left it up to the lawyers and you know the team running Twitter. So I said, you guys do what you think is the right. It makes sense.
I think it's fun.
I think it's a very low. I was looking to get much more money than that.
So you gave him a discount when the lawsuit.
He got he got a big discount. I don't think he even knows about it.
He's become one of your, if you read and believe the media, he's become one of your best friends. He's working for free for you.
Well, I love the president. I just want to be clear about that.
You don't care about that?
I know. I love the president.
You love the president?
I think President Trump is a good man, and he's, you know.
It's nice the way he said that. You know, there's something nice about it.
It really is. You know, because I mean, the president's been so unfairly attacked in the media. It's really outrageous, and I've at this point spent a lot of time with the president, and not once have I seen him do something that was mean or cruel or wrong. Not once.
You know, I've known him for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I've never seen anybody take as much as he's taken.
Yeah.
And we've discussed this, and I'm like, how do you deal with it?
Did I have a choice?
Well, you would say that to me. I'm like, what am I going to do? Worry about it? And, you know, and then culminating in 2 assassination attempts, which resulted in your endorsement.
Well, I was going to do it anyway, but that was
it.
Precipitating event. Yeah.
That speeded it up a little bit.
Yeah.
The day of the assassination.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It sped it up, but I was going to do it anyway.
Mr. President, with your indulgence, I'm convinced that people only know a little bit about Elon. I don't think they know everything about Elon, because as I studied and prepared for this interview, I learned a lot about you that I didn't know. I think people will think about Tesla. Democrats are demonizing you and trying to make the country hate you. I just want people to understand you a little bit better, and the person that you've gotten to know and have now put a lot of trust in.
Yeah.
And, you know, just let's go over a little bit of your bio, starting with PayPal and how you became involved in Tesla and SpaceX and Neuralink and all these.
A while. I mean, you know, I think the way to think of me is like I'm a technologist, and I try to make technologies that improve the world and make life better.
Your shirt.
Yeah, and that's why I like my T-shirt says tech support, because I'm here to provide the president with technology support. And now that may seem like, well, is that a silly thing? But actually, it's a very important thing, because the president will make these executive orders, which are very sensible and good for the country, but then they don't get implemented. You know, so. If you take, for example, all the funding for the migrant hotels, the president issued an executive order. Hey, we need to stop taking taxpayer money and paying for luxury hotels for illegal immigrants, which makes no sense. Like, so obviously, people do not want their tax dollars going to fund high-end hotels for illegals, and yet they were still doing that even as late as last week. And so, you know, we went in there and we're like, this is in violation of the presidential executive order. It needs to stop. So what we're doing here is one of the biggest functions of the Doge team is just making sure that the presidential executive orders are actually carried out. And this is, I just want to point out, this is a very important thing, because the president is the elected representative of the people. So he's representing the will of the people. And if the bureaucracy is fighting the will of the people and preventing the president from implementing what the people want, then what we live in is a bureaucracy and not a democracy.
You're both aware, you have to be keenly aware, that the media and the punditry class, not that, you know, I think you've proven they have no power anymore, because they threw everything they had at you and they didn't win. And that was, you know, the New York Times, Washington Post, 3 networks, every late night comedy show, 2 cable channels. They threw everything, lawfare, weaponization.
Sure.
And now I see they want you two to start, they want a divorce. They want you two to start hating each other. And they try, President Elon Musk, for example. You do know that they're doing that to you.
Oh, I see it all the time. They tried it, then they stopped. That wasn't. They have many different things of hatred. Actually, Elon called me. He said, "You know, they're trying to drive us apart." I said, "Absolutely." You know, they said, "We have breaking news. Donald Trump has ceded control of the presidency to Elon Musk. President Musk will be attending a cabinet meeting tonight at 8 o'clock." And I say, It's just so obvious. They're so bad at it. I used to think they were good at it. They're actually bad at it, because if they were good at it, I'd never be president. Because I think nobody in history has ever gotten more bad publicity than me. I could do the greatest things. I get 98% bad publicity. I could do, outside of you and a few of your very good friends, it's like the craziest thing. But you know what I have learned, Elon? The people are smart. They get it.
Yeah, they do, actually.
They get it. They really see what's happening.
Yes.
And at the end of this interview, what I would like is I want people to know the relationship and know more about you. What is the relationship, Mr. President?
Well, I respect him. I've always respected him. I never knew that he was right on certain things, and I'm usually pretty good at this stuff. He did Starlink. He did things that were so advanced and nobody knew what the hell they were. I can tell you in North Carolina, they had no communication. They were wiped out. Those people were, you know, they had rivers in between. Land that never saw water, all of a sudden it was a river and a vicious, like rapids. People were dying all over. They had no communication. They said, "You know Elon Musk?" They didn't really know I knew him. I said, "Yeah." He said, "Could you get Starlink?" It's like the first time I ever heard of it. I said, "What's Starlink?" "A communication system that's unbelievable."
I have it.
Yeah. And he said, I called him and I said, "Listen, they really need it." And he got like thousands of units of this communication, and it saved a lot of lives. He got it immediately, and you can't get it. I mean, you have to wait a long time to get it. But he got it to him immediately, and I said, "That's pretty amazing," and I didn't even know he had it. We watched the rocket ships, and we watch Tesla. I think, you know, something that had an effect on me was when I saw the rocket ship come back and get grabbed, like you grab a beautiful little baby. You grab your baby. It just
hug the rocket.
I've never seen.
Right, everyone needs a hug, including rockets.
No, but and he said, you know, you can't really have a rocket program if you're going to dump $1 billion into the ocean every time you fly. You have to save it.
Right.
And he saved it. First time that I've ever seen that done. Now nobody else can do it. If you look at the U.S., Russia, or China, they can't do it, and they won't be able to do it for a long time. He has the technology. So you learn. I wanted somebody really smart to work with me in terms of the country, a very important aspect. Because, I mean, he doesn't talk about it. He's actually a very good businessman. And when he talks about the executive orders, and this is probably true for all presidents, you write an executive order and you think it's done. You send it out. It doesn't get done. It doesn't get implemented. They don't implement it. Maybe they're from the last administration, and they are in some cases. You try and get them out as fast as you can. But as soon as he said that, I said, you know, that's interesting. You write a beautiful executive and you sign it and you assume it's going to be done, but it's not. What he does is he takes it, and with his 100 geniuses, he's got some very brilliant young people working for him that dress much worse than him, actually.
Yeah,
they dress in just T-shirts. You wouldn't know they have 180 IQ.
Wait a minute. So he's your tech support.
No, he is. But he's much more than that.
I actually am tech support, though. But
he gets it done. He's a leader.
Yeah.
He really is. He gets it done. You get a lot of tech people, and you have people that are good with tech, but he gets it done. You know, I said in real estate, you had guys that would draw beautiful renderings of a building, and they'd draw the rendering. It would be great. And you say, great, when are you starting? But they were never able to get it built. They couldn't get the financing. They couldn't get the approvals. It would never get done. And then you have other guys that are able to get it done. You know, they could just get it done. I was in real estate. Same thing in this. He gets it done. So when he said that, he said, you know, when you sign these executive orders, a lot of them don't get done, and maybe the most important ones. And he would take that executive order that I'd sign, and he would have those people go to whatever agency it was. When are you doing it? Get it done, get it done. And some guy that maybe didn't want to do it, all of a sudden, he's signing. He just doesn't want to be bothered.
Do a lot of those executive orders have to be codified into law? You need the Republican Congress to follow up?
And they will be. A lot of them will be,
They will.
But look, in the meantime, we have 4 years. The beauty is we have 4 years. That's why I like doing it right at the beginning. Because an executive order is great. I mean, the one problem, it's both good and bad. Because when they did all these executive orders, I've canceled most of them. They were terrible. I mean, we're going to go radical left communist. Okay, it was crazy. Their
really crazy.
Executive orders were so bad. If they ever got them codified, you'd never be able to break them. So the damage that Biden has done to this country, and it's not even Biden, it's the people that circled him in the Oval Office, okay? But the damage they did to this country, in terms of, let's say, open borders, you know, there's so many things, but open borders, where millions of people poured into our country, and hundreds of thousands of those people are criminals. They're murderers, they're drug dealers, they're gang members, they're people from prisons from all over the world. And we have a great guy, Tom Homan, and he is doing so incredibly. You saw the numbers, they're down like 96%.
95%.
He is a phenomenal guy. And Kristi Noem is doing an unbelievable job. And he wanted her, he said, she's so tough. And I said, I don't think of her as that way. You know, she's very nice. He said, no, she's so tough. And she is. I see with the horses, she's riding the horse. Let's go. She's great. But the team we have is really unbelievable. But those executive orders, I sign them, and now they get passed on to him and his group and other people, and they're all getting done. We're getting them done.
Let me go back a little bit to your background, because it's beyond impressive. You were the chief engineer, for example. You were an early believer in Tesla. You became the CEO, and then the chief engineer, which was phenomenal. SpaceX, same thing, which is unbelievable. I mean, you were the first private company to send astronauts successfully into space, first private company to send astronauts into orbit.
Yeah.
That's pretty deep.
He's going to go into orbit soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, he's going to go to Mars. He's
Starlink
At some point. Yeah.
is in over.
I mean, they always ask me, like, do you want to die on Mars? And I say, well, yes, but not on impact.
Starlink is in 100 countries. This is going to be hard. I feel like I'm interviewing two brothers here.
You go ahead.
Star Shield, which could be used for national defense.
Yeah, it is already being used for national defense.
Then you have what is it called? Optimus, a part of Tesla.
The robot, yeah.
A robotic arm. Then you have an AI arm. And then you have something that really fascinated me, and it's called Neuralink.
Yes.
You might help the blind to see,
yes,
and people with spinal cord injuries, that they can recover, where in the past, how close is that becoming a success?
Neuralink, we've implanted Neuralink in 3 patients so far who are quadriplegics, and it allows them to directly control their phone and computer just using their mind, just by thinking. It's like, so we call this product telepathy. So you control your computer and phone just by thinking, and it's possible to actually control the computer and phone faster than someone who has working hands. Then the next step would be to add a second Neuralink implant past the point where the neurons are damaged, so that somebody can walk again, and so they can have full body functionality restored. And
you like Bobby, right?
I like Bobby, actually. Yeah, I think I supported Bobby Kennedy. I think he's unfairly maligned as someone who is anti-science, but I think he isn't. He just wants to question the science, which is the essence of the science. The scientific method fundamentally is about always questioning the science.
Well, they didn't tell us the truth about COVID.
Correct.
That's for sure.
Yes.
And we learned a lot with the Twitter files. And that just then raises a question. You're the richest man in the world. You may not like that part. You're pretty competitive.
It's neither here nor there.
I've known you a long time. But
that's why.
But he's on your team. Well, that's true. He can't top that.
He's good. You know, I wanted to find somebody smarter than him. I searched all over. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't. You
really tried hard.
I couldn't find anyone smarter, right? So we had it for the country.
But this is the thing.
We settled on this.
Well, thanks for having me.
So
I'm just trying to be useful.
This is the interesting. This is where we are as a society, and I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to do it anyway. You're doing all of these things. Nobody at Doge gets paid a penny, correct?
Well, actually, some people are federal employees.
Some are, okay.
Yeah,
they're helping.
But it's fair to say that the software engineers at Doge could be earning millions of dollars a year, and instead of earning a small fraction of that as federal employees.
Okay, so
and they're very committed people.
So
yes.
you're committed to helping the blind see people with spinal cord injuries recover.
Yes.
You're committed to getting to Mars. You're committed to rescue. You're going to help rescue next month 2 astronauts that I think were abandoned. They dispute that in an interview.
At the president's request or instruction, we are accelerating the return of the astronauts, which was postponed kind of to a ridiculous degree.
They got left in space.
They've been there. They were supposed to be there 8 days. They're there almost 300.
Biden.
They were yes, they were left up there for political reasons, which is not good.
Okay, it's not good. Now, if I had the weight of the pressure of doing that successfully on my shoulders, I think I'd be, But when we spoke before we did this interview, you are very confident. You think this will be a successful mission.
Well, we don't want to be complacent, but we have brought astronauts back from the space station many times before, and always with success. Mm-hmm. So, as long as we're not complacent.
When are you going to launch?
I think it's about 4 weeks to bring them back.
About 4 weeks?
Yeah.
And
we're being extremely cautious. Yeah.
You now have the go-ahead.
Yes. Well, thanks to you.
They didn't have the go-ahead with Biden.
What's that?
He was going to leave him in space. I think he was going to leave him in space.
Well, it's like when we were growing up, lost in space.
Yeah, he didn't want the publicity. Can you believe it?
Unbelievable. And so
yeah.
I want to echo something that the president said and then ask an overarching question. So people get hit with Hurricane Helene. They have no communication with the outside world. You come to the rescue. You donated that, I believe?
Yes.
Okay. You donated to the people.
He saved a lot of lives in North Carolina. He saved a lot of lives.
And California after the wildfires? California,
but I mean in North Carolina where they were really in trouble. They had no communication. People were dying. They were dying of starvation. He saved a lot of lives in North Carolina.
Okay. Now you're going to rescue astronauts. And now, and again, you do all of this. I would think liberals would love the fact that you have the biggest electric vehicle company in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be adored by the left,
Yeah, not anymore.
Less so these days.
He killed that, huh?
I mean, less so.
I really didn't.
Well, I mean, this whole sort of like, they call it like Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah. And I didn't, you don't realize how real this is until like you can't reason with people. So like I was at a friend's birthday party in LA, just a birthday dinner, and it was like a nice, quiet dinner, and everyone was behaving normally. And I happened to mention, this is before the election, like a month or two before, I happened to mention the president's name. And it was like they got shot with a dart in the jugular that contained like methamphetamine and rabies. Okay, and they're like, "Wow!" And I'm like, "What is wrong, guys? Like, you can't have like a normal conversation." Yeah. And it's like they become completely irrational.
He has no idea. But if you're friends with him, you pay a price. It's like I walk into a restaurant in New York and it's like half the room gets daggers and they want to.
No, the eye daggers level is insane. Yeah. I mean, there was like I had like some invitation because I got invited to like basically a big sort of damn event like that was, but I received the invitation like the beginning of last year, and I still attended even after I'd endorsed President Trump, and I didn't realize how profoundly that would affect how I was received. I mean, I walk into the room and I'm getting just the dirty looks from everyone. Like, if looks could kill, I would have been dead several times over.
But that was not before Trump.
BT, ashes on the floor.
Before Trump, that never happened, right?
No.
This is the $1 million or $1 billion, I'm among billionaires, question. So you have all of this going on, and you stop, in a way. You're still doing it. And you partner with him. And this is what you get from the Democrats. You get, nobody voted for Elon. Well, nobody voted for any of your cabinet nominees. Okay. People are dying because of Doge cuts. I'll give you a chance to respond to all that. What Doge is doing is illegal. Elon Musk is more street vernacular for a male body part. It's a constitutional crisis.
Okay. Why are they reacting like this?
Well, first of all, do you give it fly and rip? Or number one, and
well, I guess we must be over the target or doing something right. If like they wouldn't be complaining so much if we weren't doing something useful. I think. What all we're really trying to do here is restore the will of the people through the president. And what we're finding is that there's an unelected bureaucracy. Speaking of unelected, there's a vast federal bureaucracy that is implacably opposed to the president and the cabinet. And you look at, say, DC voting, it's 92% Kamala. Okay, so we're 92% Kamala. That's a lot.
They don't like me here either.
I think about that number a lot. And like 92%, that's basically almost everyone.
Yeah.
And so, but how can you, if the will of the president is not implemented, and the president is representative of the people, that means the will of the people is not being implemented, and that means we don't live in a democracy, we live in a bureaucracy. And so I think what we're seeing here is the thrashing of the bureaucracy as we try to restore democracy and the will of the people. Is this making sense? I mean,
no, of course it does. I mean, to me, if you look at our framers and our founders, and you really become a student of history, Mr. President, and we've had conversations both on air and off air. And if we talk about constitutional order or transformational change, nobody can argue that what's happening here is it's going at the speed of light. But however, what were the principles of our framers and our founders? They wanted limited government, greater freedom for the people. And we'll get to the specific cutting of waste, fraud, and abuse. That is your goal, is it not?
Yeah, and my goal was to get great people. And when you look at what this man has done, I mean, it was something. I knew him a little bit through the White House. Originally, I'd see him around a little bit. I didn't know him before that. And I respected what he did. And he fought hard. You know, he was maybe questioned for a while. He was having some difficulties. It was not easy doing what he did. I mean, how many people have started a car company and made it really successful and made a better car where it's, you know, beating these big companies that's all they do is cars? I mean, it's really amazing the things he's done. But I didn't know it as much then as now. I mean, the fruits have sort of taken hold. But I wanted great people. And he's a great person. He's an amazing person. He's also a caring person. You know, he uses the word care. So they signed a contract in a government agency, and it has 3 months, and the guy leaves that signed the contract, and nobody else is there, and they pay the contract for 10 years.
Yeah.
So the guy is getting checks for years and years and years, and he's telling his family, obviously, maybe it was crooked, maybe he paid to get the contract, or maybe he paid that they didn't terminate it. But, you know, we have contracts that go forever, and they've been going for years. And they're supposed to end in 3 months or 5 months or 2 years or something, and they go forever. So the guy is either crooked, you know, where he knew this was going to happen, or he's crooked because he's getting payments that he knows he shouldn't be getting. But they're finding things like that. They're finding things far worse than that. And they're finding billions, and it will be hundreds of billions of dollars worth of fraud. I say waste and abuse, but fraud, waste, and abuse. And he's doing an amazing job. And he attracts a young, very smart type of person. I call them high IQ individuals, and they are. They're very high IQ and high IQ. And when they go in to see the people and talk to these people, you know, the people think they're going to pull it over. They don't. These guys are smart, and they love the country. You know, there's a certain something. But he uses the word care. So people have to care. Like, when I bought Air Force One, I negotiated the price. It was $5.7 billion, and I got them down to $1.7 billion. Now they're not building the plane fast enough. I mean, they're actually in default. Boeing, they're supposed to have been building this thing forever. I don't know what's going on. We don't build the way we used to build. You know, we used to build like a ship a day, and now to build a ship is like a big deal. And we're going to get this country back on track. We can do it, but so many things. It takes so long to get things built and get things done. And a lot of it could be something we've been discussing. The regulators go in and they make it impossible to build. They make it very difficult to build anything, whether it's a ship, a plane, or a building, or anything. And some of them do it because they want to show how important they are. Some of them do it maybe because they think they're right. They use the environment to stop progress and to stop things. It's always the environment. It's an environmental problem. It's not an environmental problem at all. But they do a lot of things. And by the way, speaking of that, Lee Zeldin is going to be fantastic in the position. It's so important. He could take 10 years to approve or disapprove something, or he could do it in a month. You know, just as good.
Sure.
And I think you're going to see a fantastic job done by him. He's a tremendous guy.
Newt, you echoed something when I just met you, and it was very similar to what Newt has been saying, that he brought this country to the dance. This is the opportunity to be transformational and to have, I would argue, the most consequential presidency if we really dig down and do something that had never been done before, and that is get rid of this bureaucracy. And I'm going to get to the specifics. You say the same thing. It's not done yet. And what do you mean by that?
I mean, winning the election is really the opportunity to fix the system. It is not fixing the system itself. So it's an opportunity to fix the system and to restore the power of democracy. And people like. It's funny how often when these attacks occur, the thing that they're accusing the administration of is what they are guilty of. They're saying that things are being done unconstitutional, but what they are doing is unconstitutional. They are guilty of the crime of which they accuse us.
That's always the first thing they do. He's in violation of the Constitution. They don't even know what they're talking. Well,
it's absurd.
It's just a con job. It's a big con job. And they're so bad for the country, so dangerous and so bad. And the media is so bad. When I watch MSNBC, which I don't watch much, but you have to watch the enemy on occasion, the level of arrogance and cheating, and they're just horrible people. These are horrible people.
They tell conspiracy theories.
And they start up with the Constitution. They couldn't care less about the Constitution. CNN, likewise. I mean, I watch them asking questions with, the hatred with I said, why are you asking the question with such anger? You're asking me a normal question, but you see the bias. The bias is so incredible. Those two are bad. PBS is bad. AP is bad. CBS is terrible. I mean, CBS now, they changed an answer. In Kamala, they asked her some questions. She answered them like, a low IQ person, the opposite of him, the absolute opposite. But she gave a horrible answer. They took the entire answer out and they put another answer that she gave 20 minutes later into as the answer. I've never even heard of that. I thought I heard of it all.
I'm going to, just for the sake of saving time, because I could spend, and I've done this on radio and TV, I can spend an hour finding the outrageous amounts of money being spent abroad, like USAID, and I just want to mention a couple, but I'm going to scroll it.
Well, I guess at a high level, I think it's what the president mentioned earlier, which is that in order to save taxpayer money, it comes down to two things: competence and caring. And when the president was shown the outrageous bill for the new Air Force One, and then negotiated it down, if the president had not applied competence and caring, the price would have been 50% higher. Literally 50% higher. The president cared, the president was competent, the price was not 50% higher as a result. And so when you add more competence and caring, you get a better deal for the American people.
But we were talking about this yesterday, give me thousands of bills. I could pick any one of them.
Exactly.
But I could take all 1,000. And let's say it's a bill for $5,000, just $5,000, and it's done by some bureaucrat. And if he would say, I'll give you 3, I don't want to pay you 5, it's too high, I'll give you 3. But they don't do that. If a guy sends in a bill for $5,000, they pay $5,000. They expect to be cut. Everybody expects to be cut. When you send in a bill, you expect to be cut. They send in the bill higher for the most part. This is true with lawyers, legal fees. When they send in legal fees, I can cut. I wish I had the time. I would save so, but I could cut these bills in half, much better than half. But you offer people a much lower number because they actually put fat. I'm not even saying it's like a way of business. They put more on because they expect to be negotiated. When you send in a bill to the government, there's nobody to negotiate.
Yes.
You send in a bill for $10,000 and they send you a check back for $10,000. If you would call them and said, we'll give you 5. No, I need more than 5. We'll give you 5. I'm not going to pay any more than 5. Make it 6. No, I'm not going to make it 6. And you'll settle for $5,500. You've just cut the bill almost in half. And it took like 2 minutes. But none of that's
Don't we call that the art of the
deal? But that's caring. No, it's not even the art of the deal. It's caring. He uses the word. It's caring.
Yeah.
It's a certain competence, but I think it's more caring than competence.
If you add either ingredient, either competence or caring, you'll get a better outcome. But it stands to reason that if you don't have competence, you don't have caring, you're going to get a terrible deal. And the problem is that the American taxpayers have been getting a terrible deal because look at the last administration. Can any reasonable person say that the last administration was either competent or caring?
But they lied to us and said that Joe didn't have a cognitive decline.
They fully lied.
They said the borders were closed. They said that the borders were secure. They said that, they said Obamacare would save.
They flat out lied.
They flat out lied. As I scroll this information, and I'll scroll a lot more than I'll mention to both of you, and this is the cost savings. I want people at home to understand this part. The average American makes $66,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay? We have $37 trillion in national debt.
Yes.
Now, all the money I'm about to mention and what we're going to scroll on our screen, and all of this is going to foreign countries. It is not being spent here in America for better schools, law and order.
I think the average tax-paying American should be mad as hell because their tax money is being poorly spent.
All right, let me go to the second question first. I want to know, because people like Joni Ernst and
Joni Ernst has tried for a long time, and she's actually got a lot of good data. Senator Ernst has been really helpful, actually.
Okay, but they actually hide what the real purpose of the spending is.
Sure.
In other words, this is a question. How did you decipher? It will say humanitarian blah, blah, blah in Serbia or Afghanistan. We even give money to China, for crying out loud, which I think is nuts.
We'll give money to the Taliban.
But money to the Taliban.
Like a lot.
All right, so
I'm like, for what?
But
I want to see the pictures of what they did.
But they try to $20 million for consultant-driven ESG investments in Africa, DEI programs in Serbia. The president's favorite. I'm sure you love that taxpayer money was spent on a DEI musical in Ireland, or a transgender opera in Colombia, or a transgender comic book.
It sounds like how can these things be real? But this is actually what was done. It sounds like a comedy sketch.
I have 20 pages of this.
Right. It's not. It's a list a mile long.
If you had to put a number on it, how much do you think you've identified waste, fraud, abuse, corruption at this point? And again, we're going to be scrolling this throughout the program.
Well, the overall goal is to try to get $1 trillion out of the deficit. And if the deficit is not brought under control, America will go bankrupt. This is a very important thing for people to understand. A country is no different from an individual in that if an individual overspends, an individual can go bankrupt, and so can a country. And the massive waste, fraud, and abuse that has been going on, which is leading to a $2 trillion a year deficit. That's what the president was handed on Jan 20th, a $2 trillion deficit. It's insane.
For this fiscal year.
Yeah, we inherited. Yeah. And inflation is back. I'm only here for 2.5 weeks.
That was January.
Inflation is back. No, think of it. Inflation's back, and they said, "Oh, Trump inflation." I had nothing to do with it. These people have run the country. They spent money like nobody's ever spent. They were given $9 trillion to throw out the window. $9 trillion. And they spent it on the Green New scam, I call it. It's the greatest scam in the history of the country. One of them. We have a lot of them, I guess, but one of them. Dollar-wise, probably.
DEI and wokeism and transgenderism.
Well, that's all part of it, yeah.
And LGBTQ+.
Yes.
By the way, not in America. Other countries, not here.
You know, the amazing thing is when you see, like, the teaching of DEI, $9 million. How do you spend $9 million to teach? No matter what it is, you could teach physics.
Totally.
You could go to MIT for a lot less.
Expensive.
Yeah,
expensive.
the teaching of DEI.
Yes.
How much do you believe, Elon, you've identified in waste, fraud, abuse, corruption now, and how much do you anticipate you will?
Sure. I think
1%. No, because it's so massive. This is huge money.
So what we found now is 1%.
We're just got
as
started.
Good as they are, they're not going to find some contract that was crooked, crooked as hell. I mean, there's going to be so much that isn't found. But what is found, I think he's going to find $1 trillion.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think it's a very small percentage compared to what it is.
Let me go to an area that I think is key, and you talked about this in recent interviews, and that is, we don't need a Department of Education. Okay. And what some people are trying to do is stoke fears that, oh my gosh, my kid's not going to get the money for education, or grandma's Social Security and Medicare. This was a big promise of yours on the campaign trail. So I really want to give you both an opportunity to assure the American people you will keep, that money will be allocated for students, but with higher standards. For example, I would assume associated with monies given or
just
vouchers.
So much, and then Elon goes, but look, Social Security won't be touched, other than if there's fraud or something, we're going to find it's going to be strengthened, but won't be touched. Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff is going to be touched.
Nothing.
You don't have to. Now, if there are illegal migrants in the system, we're going to get them out of the system and all of that, fraud, but it's not going to be touched. School. I want to bring school back to the states so that Iowa, Indiana, all these places, Idaho, New Hampshire, there's so many places, the states, I figure 35 really run well. And right now it's Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, China. China, can you imagine, has top schools. We're last. So they have a list of 40 countries. We're number 40. Usually we're 38, 39. The last time we were number 40. And what I say is you got to give it back. So it doesn't work. I'll tell you what we're number one in, cost per pupil. We spend more money than any other country by far. It's not even close per pupil. Okay. So we know it doesn't work. So we spend the most and we have the worst, right? The worst result. When we give that back to Indiana, when we give that back to Iowa and back to a lot of the states that run well, they run well. There's a lot of them, 35, 37, 38. Now, you're going to have 10 laggards, but you're going to have 5 real laggards, but that's going to be okay. Take New York. You give it to Westchester County. You give it to Suffolk County. You give it to upstate New York. And you give it to Manhattan. But you give it to 4 or 5 subsections. Same thing in California. Los Angeles is going to be a problem, but you're going to give it to places that run well. We can change education. Now, school choice is important, but that will get taken care of automatically. We want to bring education back to the states. You will spend half the number,
grants,
and I'm not even doing this.
Like
I'm not even doing this to save, but you will. It costs you much less money. You get a much better education. If you go to some of these states, you'll be the equivalent of Norway, Sweden, Denmark, places that really have a good school system. You'll have those places will be the equivalent, and your overall numbers will get so much better.
Do you want standards associated?
The only thing I want to do from Washington, D.C. is make sure they're teaching English, reading, writing,
math,
and
arithmetic. Science?
Okay, a little science.
Science might help.
You
Sure.
know,
computers.
You're not going to have much of a problem with that, but that's it.
So your task now, and I pray to God this is successful. I really do. I wish you Godspeed. You know, Godspeed, John Glenn.
It's going to be, by the way. I really believe.
But there are
the country's going to do well beside this. This is cutting. We're only talking about cutting. We're also going to make a lot of money. We're taking in so much.
What about his business? What if there is
then we won't
a contract he would otherwise
get?
get?
We're not going to let him do it. If he's got a conflict. I mean, look, he's in certain areas. I mean, I see this morning, I didn't know, but I said, do the right thing, where they're cutting way back on the electric vehicle subsidies.
Yes.
They're cutting back.
You're losing.
Not only cutting back.
Hurt you.
Correct.
Yeah. Now,
you don't care.
I won't tell you.
Well,
he's probably not that happy with it, but that would have been one thing he would have come to me and said, listen, you got to do me a favor. This is crazy. But this was in the tax bill. They're cutting back on the subsidies. I wasn't involved in it. I said, do what's right, and they're coming up with a tax bill. It's just preliminary. But I mean, if he were involved, wouldn't you think he'd probably do that? Now, maybe he does better if you cut back on the subsidies. Who knows? Because he figures he does think differently. He thinks he has a better product.
Yeah.
And as long as he has a level playing field, he doesn't care what you do, which is he's told me that.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't asked the president for anything ever.
And if it comes up, how will you handle it?
Well,
he won't be involved.
Yeah, I'll recuse myself if it is.
If there's a conflict, he won't be involved.
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't want that, and he won't want it.
Right, and obviously I'm getting a sort of a daily proctology exam here. You know, it's not like I'll be getting away from something in the dead of night.
Welcome to D.C. If you want a friend, get a dog.
Well, I do have a dog, but I also have friends.
Yeah.
My dog loves me, poor little creature.
You know the truth with this?
I need to bring him to D.C.
I know every businessman. I know the good ones, the bad ones, the smart ones, the lucky ones. I know them. This guy's he's a brilliant guy. He's a great guy. He's got tremendous imagination and scientific imagination, far beyond, you know, you keep talking about a technologist and all, but you're much more than a technologist. You are that. But he's also a good person. He's a very good person, and he wants to see the country do well. And I know a lot of great business people, really great business people, but, you know, they're not really, in some cases, very good people. And I know people that would try and take advantage of the situation. This guy's somebody that really cares for the country, and I saw that very early on. I saw it really a long time ago when I got to know him. He's a very different kind of a character. That's why, you know who loves him? Young people that are very smart and that love the country.